More than 400 people, including British nationals, have left Gaza as the Rafah crossing to Egypt has finally been opened to civilians. It comes as Rishi Sunak held talks with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi last night.
Well, we are joined now by Kamal Tabika, correspondent for The National. Kamal, thank you for joining us this morning. What do we know about those who have successfully crossed the border into Egypt, and why on earth did it take so long?
Good morning. So what we know so far is that the foreign nationals, I guess it took them a bit of time. There was a list of the nationals who were going to be allowed out of Gaza yesterday. I think there was a Qatari brokered deal that agreed upon a certain number of foreign nationals who were allowed to leave. Then there were around, mind you should take the numbers with a grain of salt because there are conflicting numbers coming out. But what we've been told is around 81 Palestinian citizens have also been received in hospitals in North Sinai for treatment.
Listen, the line isn't great, Kamal, but I really appreciate you joining us. We'll do our best to make that better. President Biden yesterday said that opening of this crossing is the result of intense and urgent diplomacy, and he said to all sides, we need to get together to make sure this is open to do what we can. Nick asked you, I'll ask you again, I'm not sure if you heard, not your fault at all. Why has it taken so long for a crossing that can aid not only the injured, but aid the other way to enter Gaza? Why, Kamal, in your opinion, has it taken so long for this to be facilitated?
The negotiations between the Egyptians and the Israelis, and then I guess Arab governments in the middle, both Israel and Egypt, have interests. So on Israel's side, its ideal scenario is to clear the Gaza Strip and have Egypt administer the 2.3 million populace. Egypt has said since the start of the war that it will not allow this to happen because it is afraid that the Palestinian resistance will move from Gaza into its Sinai Peninsula and therefore make a base in Egypt, which could cause problems for the country down the line. Now, figuring out the specifics of how many Palestinians were going to come across and the procedures of checking their backgrounds and their affiliations with Hamas. And so both countries had to reach an agreement, and the negotiations have been ongoing for the last 3 weeks to figure that out.
And Kamal, Egypt, I believe, has already got close to 9 million refugees in its population. El-Sisi saying that they're taking their fair share. He also called the Palestinian displacement in Gaza, or away from Gaza, an Israeli plot. What are your comments on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of commentators in Egypt have been saying that one of the objectives of Israel's attack on Gaza is to clear out the enclave because it has been a sort of a pain in their side. The Palestinian resistance is focused in Gaza. Hamas is a lot more aggressive and active than other Palestinian political factions. Yeah.
I tell you, one of the things that I've found really hard over the last few weeks, as I think Nick has, we all have, is trying to work out what is the right question and the best way to do it. Can I ask you a question? What would be the Egyptians' response to what Hamas did 3 weeks ago?
The Egyptians condemned what Hamas did 3 weeks ago because of various reasons. But I think that a lot of Arab leaders don't necessarily see Hamas as a purely terrorist organization as Western countries might see it, because they are more aware of the injustices that Israel has continued to exact upon the Palestinian people, both in the West Bank and Gaza. So I think it's more of a complicated take on Hamas rather than how the West sees Hamas.
And I think for us, I think for us in the Western media, I think it's very important, and we've tried to do it on Talk Today, is to try and give all sides. And we've said repeatedly what happened 3.5 weeks ago was genocide. And I understand the response. I also don't like what I see. I don't like the humanitarian disaster that's unfolding. I don't think anybody can in any which way. It's causing problems for obviously for people there and politicians across the world. Where in your mind, you work for The National in Egypt, great to get your response this morning, Kamal. Where does this end? How does this escalate? How does it finish?
The thing is, the situation is so unpredictable, but what's really shocking is the sheer number of dead and injured. This is unprecedented in decades of Israeli-Palestinian aggression. So there are some people who are trying to normalize the situation, along the lines of, we've seen this before, Palestine and Israel have been fighting, but just the scale and the escalation and the rhetoric is unprecedented. So it really is just very unpredictable, because there is talk of fronts opening up on multiple sides, and there's talk of Egypt. I spoke to a source in Washington 2 days ago who said that despite Egypt's rejection of any Gazans moving into Sinai, he has spoken to officials who said that they're prepared to take up to 100,000 refugees. It's just that they don't want to take more. So every day the situation changes, and I think that these negotiations with the West and other Arab countries continue to change every day based on that.
I think the one thing that I would take from what you said, and great to have you on, Kamal, is that nobody should normalise something that is so utterly horrific, from the initial atrocities to what's happening right now. Kamal, thank you. Tabika, from a correspondent with the National in Egypt, thank you very much.